Welcome to this video on designing activities in Proloquo2Go 4. I'm David.
And I'm Jennifer. Many people use activity pages in AAC systems. An activity page is where you try to have all the vocabulary you need to participate in a specific activity on a single page. I'm going to show you one of the sample activities we have included in the Crescendo vocabulary. You can reach these sample activities on the intermediate core page by going to the Activities folder that you'll see with the red outline on the home page. If you're using Advanced Core, you'll need to tap the More button to go to the secondary home page and find the Activity button there. I'll go to Sample Activities and then I'm going to show you the Mealtime activity. And I can say things like,
I want to eat that hamburger. I want to eat that hamburger.
The advantage of an activity page is that the person using it doesn't have to navigate much to say anything. He can stay on the single page and participate in the activity. For a beginning communicator, this is a real advantage because it lets you have some success communicating without having to learn navigation at the same time. Navigating requires a lot of different skills. You need to know some categorization to figure out which folder to look into to find something. So, for instance, you need to know what a color is, what a food is as opposed to a toy or a drink. You have to hold in your mind the word you want it to say once you get to the new folder, without getting distracted by all the new buttons on the folder you've just gone to. You have to search for your word, pick it, go back to where you were before, and remember the rest of the sentence you wanted to say. This can be a lot for a beginning communicator, so it can be valuable to start out with a more limited system. So then why don't we only have activity-specific pages if it's that much easier? The main reason not to is that it's incredibly difficult to predict what people are going to want to say during any activity. It's easy to figure out what you need to say to participate in the mechanics of an activity. For instance, in the meal activity, you can very easily predict that you're going to want to ask for food and drinks and utensils, comment that things are yummy or yucky, say no, and all done. In a bowling activity, it's easy to predict that you'll want to request various bowling items, comment on someone's bowling skills, and keep score. But so much of communication in any activity is not related to the activity itself. If you have a meal with a friend, how satisfied are you going to be with that experience if all you talk about is requesting things and saying if they're good or bad? Wouldn't you find that boring? Don't you want to gossip, find out what your friend has been up to, what he thinks about the latest TV show or political scandal? Don't you want to tell him about your disastrous date or work crisis or what happened at school? The vocabulary you need to talk about these things is at best on another activity page, so you have to navigate to find it. And yet navigation is supposed to be the thing you can't handle yet. This is where core words come in. You'll notice on the mealtime page that there are a lot of words that are also on the home page. I'll flip back to the home page so you can see that, and keep your eye on this area. Just see what happens when I go to home. See, a lot of those buttons are in exactly the same place. We know from a lot of research that about 80% of words that we say in every situation are the same words. These are the core words. The idea behind a core word system is that you learn a stable system of core words and you use them in all situations. You don't have a system of activity pages because in the long run that actually increases your need to navigate. You have to go between the different activity pages all the time to keep up with the conversation, and yet the words you need are mostly the same. So if core word is better in the long run, then why did we add support for activity pages into Proloquo2Go 4? Well, we feel that there is a place for activity-specific pages for beginning communicators to give them access to the vocabulary they need to participate successfully in a structured activity. But we've seen too many people trapped in an activity-based system that was implemented without a plan to move the person on to a more flexible, long-term system like Core Word. We wanted to help people make activity-specific pages that could be related to the Core Word system that they would eventually move to, so that the learning they did in the activity pages would still apply to their longer-term system. We did this by creating templates for activities that are based on our Core Word home pages. So I'm going to show you one of our templates and show you how it works. Back to activities, sample activities, and let's go to the grocery shopping page. And I'm going to go into edit mode by tapping the pencil so you can see what's a template and what isn't. Everything with these green T's on them, these are all template buttons, and I can't edit these in this mode. They're in the same place as the words on the home page. So let's get out of edit mode. And here's another feature I wanted to show you. See this button in the lower right corner, the home pop-up? What that does is it pops up a copy of the home page without the folder button. So these are all of the buttons that are on the home page so that you can have easy access to them without having to navigate very far. This will help you to learn what buttons you have available to you on the home page and get used to being able to use core words for what you say. So let's see how these templates work by making an activity. I'm going to turn this over to David, and he's going to make an activity for us.
Let's say we're going to do a cooking activity at school. So first I go back out of the sample activities, and I'm going to create my new activity in the activities folder. I go to the edit mode by tapping the pencil, and I'll start by making a new folder. And the first choice I get when I want to make a new folder is what template to use. And I can choose various templates. So what I see here are noun templates, situational templates, grammar templates, and all of those, they are related to the various fringe categories. What I'm interested in right now is the activity templates. So there's, for example, a create template. And what you see here is there are some buttons that are outlined with dotted lines and slightly dimmed. Those are placeholder buttons. Those provide suggestions as to what I might put in those places. Those with a solid outline, they are part of the template itself. So this is for a create activity, and this would be for a daily life activity, a let's talk activity, and then we have a motor play activity. And you see there are quite a lot of similarities between each of the templates, but there are also some key differences. So I go to out and about, and there are things like see and come. But if I go to reading, there are things like read and listen and turn or act it out. And then we have a toys activity as well. So let's see, what kind of template would we need for cooking? I think the best fit would be the creative one, because after all we're creating food here. So I'm tapping on the next button, and now I need to give it a name. So I'll call it cooking. Done. And so now I've created my cooking activity folder. I'll double tap to enter it, because in edit mode you always need to double tap to enter somewhere. And here I can see the cooking activity before I've done any work to customize it. So on this template you will see some buttons with stars. These are placeholder buttons. Each button has a suggestion for what kind of button to make in this place. We created the suggestions based on the need for a balanced set of words on any activity page. We need more than nouns. We need verbs, adjectives, pronouns, and prepositions in order to make sentences and learn language. We've arranged the buttons so that if you follow the suggestions, you have a balanced activity page, and words of the same grammar type will be grouped together in the same way they are grouped on the home page. This kind of consistency makes it easier to find words on new pages. That being said, the suggestions are only suggestions. You can create a button with any word kind in any of the placeholders. To replace a placeholder with a real button, just tap on the placeholder and set up your button as you would like. So let's give that a try. I tap on questions 1 here, and I can put a question there. So I'll type what? And I can do the same for question 2. and I will put there how much. After all, we don't always know how much we need to use for an ingredient. Now notice how the symbol shows money bill, but that's not the kind of how much we're interested in. So I'll use a different symbol here. And if you look at the what button, you see it has the wrong color. It is actually suggesting it's a pronoun, but we don't want to use it as a pronoun here. So I'm going to word kind, and I'm going to change that to question. There we go. Now it has the right color. Let's try and add an adjective. So I'll tap on adjective 1 here, and I'm going to put yummy there. That looks great. So let's see, what else can we do? Let's add a verb here. So what verb shall we do? How about stir? That might be useful. And let's see, yeah, I kind of like that image. Let's do another verb. And that might be, for example, pour. Let's see if that's the best image I can have here. I think for cooking I might want to use this one instead. There we go. Now let's see, what else shall we add? Maybe one more verb, and then I'll add a few nouns. So let's do one more verb. Measure. Oops. Let's go back here and add an M to it. And I think this would be a more appropriate image for the measure. And let's do the topic. So the topic would be cooking. So that way we can speak about the activity we are doing. Now that I look here, I see that measure has the color for noun. That's not so strange, because measuring is not only a verb, but it could also be about the measure of something. So I'm going to use the verb, and you notice how the color changes. So when you're setting up an activity using the placeholders, keep in mind that once you edit the placeholder and make it a button, it might guess wrong when it comes to the word kind. Now let's put a noun here. So for example, I might put oven here. And let's take one other noun here, this one. I will put cake mix here. There we get a nice cake mix. And I would like to do one more. And here I will put a bowl. That looks good, and perhaps I'll add a spoon too, so that I can mix the things. Spoon. There we go. Do I like that symbol? I'd rather get this kind of spoon. And look, the cake mix also has the wrong color. So I'm going to select just the cake mix, and I'm going to change the word kind from phrase to noun. Where is noun? There it is. So I've created quite a few buttons now using the placeholders. There are more I could do, but this is enough for now to get started. You can do almost anything with a placeholder that you can with a regular button, but there are some limitations. You can't move a placeholder to another place on the page or to another vocab priority level. It needs to stay in the place where it was created. If you delete a placeholder button, the original placeholder comes back, so you can make a new one in the same place. Let's try that out. I'm going to delete the spoon button here. I'll tap it, delete permanently, and now you see noun 4 is back. But I actually like to have that spoon, so I'll make it once more. Spoon, and let's go back to that one. Sometimes on activity pages you want to offer folders of related choices. On an art activity you might want to have a colors folder. For meal times you might want food choices. For most templates we have a special kind of placeholder button you can use to create a link to another folder. So in this particular case I see Fringe Choices 1 and Fringe Choices 2. I'll start by using Fringe Choices 1. So I tap on it, and I get the ability to make a new folder that connects to this button, or link to an existing folder, or duplicate one. I want to link to an existing folder, and I will link to cooking utensils. So let me type that. Cooking utensils. Next. Now let's put a slightly different name here, and I'll call it utensils. Okay, done. So now I have a utensils folder. And I can do something similar here for the second one, link to existing folder. And there I might put ingredients. That would be helpful for cooking. There we go. Next step. Okay, get rid of this button label and instead use ingredients. See, I may want to use another image for that, but I can do that later. It's easier here. There we go. And so I'm done. So here I have my first go at the cooking activity. As you may notice, those placeholders that I did not turn into buttons, they are empty. I can later add them and step by step expand the activity, adding additional choices. So what if you want to create a folder button and there is no placeholder folder button available? For example, if I go back into edit mode here and have a look, I actually do not see any placeholder buttons for more folders. But we have left at least one blank spot in most templates and grid sizes, so you can make not just an extra button there, but you can actually make a folder if you want. And that's what I want to do. I'm going to link this to an existing folder and I'm going to link it to meats. Select it. There we go. Next. And then we're done. So now I can link to meats here. Let's see. There we go.
So one interesting feature of our templates is that each template comes in the 23 grid sizes and 3 vocabulary levels of our crescendo vocabulary. This means it's easier to create a template once and then change its grid size or vocabulary level without having to do all of your work over again. So let's look at this activity we've just made and see how this works. I'm going to go into edit mode and I'm going to push this down so we can see more of the screen. You'll notice there's a little gears button up here on the top. If I tap this, this gives me a really quick way to change the grid size that I'm looking at and to change the vocabulary level. I'm going to change the vocabulary level to basic communication. And here you see what this activity would look like in basic. You notice that there's actually less core words available, but the same buttons that we created for the activity when we were in intermediate are still there. They're just in slightly different positions. Now I'm going to switch to advanced, and that actually looks almost exactly like intermediate. There's a lot of core words available, and we still have those same words that we added when we first created the activity. So I'll go back to intermediate. And then let's take a look at some grid sizes. We're on 5 by 9 or 45 buttons right now. And let's see what this looks like if we wanted to repurpose this activity for someone who needed fewer buttons on the page, or if the person that we're working with turned out to need larger buttons. So I'm going to switch the grid size to 32. And what you can see is that the same words that we added when we first started using this template, this activity in 5 by 9 are still there. We only have one of the folders. We just have the utensil folder that we added because it doesn't look like there's room for 2 of the folders here on the 4 by 8. So what happens if we need to go up a size, if we're working with someone who needs more vocabulary? Let's try 6 by 10. Here you see all of the buttons that we created in 5 by 9 are here. We have space for even more buttons, more verbs and more nouns, more adjectives. And if we go up to 7 by 11, we'll see there's even more room for additional nouns, and there's more core words filled in that we've taken from the home page. So you can definitely create an activity and move it up or down a size or a vocabulary level and reuse that work.
Okay, so let's go back for a moment to the 5 by 9 and let's try if we can actually use this activity. Jennifer, would you mind making a sentence?
Oh, sure, okay.
I do not do cooking. Well. I do not do cooking well. Help me. Help me.
Okay, I
do want to help you. I do want to help you.
And with this we've come to the end of this video. We very much recommend that you have a look at the various resources we offer on the website. There are a number of other videos covering other features of Proloquo2Go 4. We also have a downloadable manual, we have tutorials, and lots of other things that might be of interest to you.